Very soon, I was offered a job at the KWYWCA. It was a great beginning for me in Canada, but things changed after the first of our four children was born. I became a stay at home mother for quite some time. However, I continued to be involved with the YWCA, serving on their board of directors and participating on various committees. I forged many friendships at the YWCA, and a group of us still meet 3 times a year to share a meal and talk. In the late 70s, when refugees from Vietnam and Laos arrived in KW in large numbers, I started to help them as a volunteer, which led to a job as a settlement worker at the KW Multicultural Center. The settlement effort was shared by many dedicated individuals. To name a few, there was Lorna, there was Hulene, Shirley, Masha, La Wang, and Tuan Lao. As a settlement worker, I worked very closely with the refugees and helping them to find housing, a family doctor, and schooling for the children. Above all, I listened to their stories. Horrific stories of attacks by pirates in boats, rapes, and killings. Even though they were glad to be in Canada after having spent many years in refugee camps, they ended up staying in Kitchener at a motel for too long. They could not cook their own food and were eating mainly in nearby Chinese restaurants. And so it was a big relief when Margaret Nelly and her house church offered 101 David Street as a temporary home for the refugees. I must say that this part of my journey was very eye-opening. I learned a lot about human suffering and human compassion.
In the 1980s, Canada admitted a large number of immigrants and refugees, and a lot of them settled here in the Kitchener-Waterloo area. At that time, Uri was acutely aware of the challenges, especially challenges that women in this group faced, and she wanted to do something about it. But she didn't have too many resources at her disposal. The resources that she had were her own personal skills, her home, and the people that she knew. So what Uri did was she called the people that she knew. She opened the doors of her home, and we all sat together around her kitchen table to talk about how we can help women or refugees assimilate in mainstream society. Now, Uri's forte is her interpersonal skills, her leadership, her coordination skills. But above all, in all her professionalism, what Uri uses is what we commonly disregard, and that is common sense.
The first job I got as a social worker was in Cambridge with Lutherwood Community Services. What was extraordinary about working in Cambridge was the generosity of the housing manager, Mr. Gary Foran, who had the insight, foresight, generosity to allow townhouse units to be used as community centers for people who were really isolated. Not isolated, but left behind. They couldn't get to community centers, so we started our own. And I did that in 3 different neighborhoods. So in the Greenway Chaplain neighborhood, in the Southwood neighborhood, and Christopher Champlain, having citizens become part of their own story, which was fantastic. That led me to be the successful candidate in Guelph for a very innovative program the province of Ontario had just designed called Better Beginnings, Better Futures. And it was to be done, the program was to be done in the Willow neighborhood of Guelph. And when I got accepted for the position, I really felt as if someone had written a job description and put my name beside it. It was an extraordinary piece of work, a pinnacle of social work that now I know in retirement ought to be replicated in every single neighborhood in Canada. It gets people involved in their own lives.
While working with the Family and Children's Services in Guelph, Ontario, I was fortunate enough to take a team into the community to partner with them in the Onward Willow area. This is where I met Jassy Narayan, and finally the community organization that I had learned in theory at university had a life to it. Jassy helped me to understand terminology such as inclusivity, the need for partners, entrepreneurship, community involvement, etc., and helped us to form and forage a partnership with Children's Aid in the community. I don't believe without her direction and without her ongoing support, we would have ever been able to forge the partnership so quickly and so strongly in the community. I teach now community organization at Conestoga College, and I tell all my students that the queen of community organization is Jassy Narayan.